American colleges and universities are now enrolling roughly 6 women for every 4 men. That's the highest female-male gender gap in the history of higher education. In addition, overall enrollment is down, and most of that is a result of young men declining to attend college. Is that the situation in Oklahoma, and how big a problem is it? Steve Shaw reports many educators say it's no cause for concern and easily explained.
According to the Wall Street Journal, 6 decades ago, 60% of college students in America were male, 40% were female. Now those numbers are the exact opposite. Women are that 60%. According to that report, the number of males who attend college has dropped off the table in the past 2 years. From 2019 to 2021, male college students plummeted nationally by 535,000.
Yeah, I'm interested in that as well.
Stephanie Burge is Associate Professor of Sociology at OU, which by far is the largest university in the state. OU enrollment this fall is 52% female and 48% male. Oklahoma State Interim Vice President for Enrollment Management Karen Chen tells me the percentages in Stillwater are basically the same. Experts say the shift began with the rise of feminism more than 50 years ago.
Going back to, as you said, in the 1970s, boys were much more likely to say they were going to go to college, go to graduate school, relative to girls. Now we're in a situation where that's flipped. And that crossover kind of happened at the end of the 1980s, early 1990s.
Burge says there's several reasons why. One is quite simply, females are now more comfortable navigating the world of science, technology, engineering, and math.
Yeah, there's certainly been inroads for young women into STEM. Their inroads have been somewhat uneven. So like if you look at, depending on the subdiscipline within STEM that you look at, if you look at biology, young women make up a majority of those students. Not a huge majority, but a majority. If you look at engineering or computer science, or even things like physics, young women are still very underrepresented in those fields.
Another reason is more young males are turning to trade schools after high school.
If it translates that young men who don't go to college find a route to economic security because they have a skill set and they have a trade, that's wonderful. If it's the case that they're sort of just floundering because they're not in college and then they're not necessarily on the VOTEC path, that's where we can run into trouble in terms of, because wages have not kept pace with inflation for that particular group. In general, our country needs to figure out a real alternative to college for students who don't really want to go to college. And I would say that irrespective of gender. But certainly because men are a minority of college students, it would be very important for young men. In other countries, like Germany, for example, if you don't want to go to college, you have apprenticeships and you learn a trade and you can go become a plumber or an electrician or a welder. And these are jobs that produce, good earnings over a lifetime.
Heather McLaughlin is Associate Sociology Professor at OSU.
I'm not willing to say that women are better students than men, but what I will say is that even from younger ages, that I think boys are less likely to stay committed to school. I think that they often feel like it's not cool, it's not masculine to be studious and be good at school, and so I think there are a lot of factors that contribute to boys dropping out at higher rates than girls. I think that for a lot of men in particular who don't go to college, they can't afford it, and so I think that you're putting them in a very difficult position. I think that if that is the popular opinion, that the sky is falling, then we need to think about ways to make college less expensive and make sure it's an option for those students rather than kind of point fingers and say you're a bad person because you can't do it.
Over at the University of Tulsa, it's different. There are 1,963 male students and 1,888 females.
Tulsa's really known for petroleum engineering, so engineering typically leans male, so I wouldn't be surprised by that.
I've actually really never noticed. I thought we had more females here on campus, to be honest, but that might just be because that's what I'm paying attention to more.
UCO in Edmond tells me 63% of their current students are female, 37% are male. Oklahoma City University Vice President for Enrollment Management Kevin Winholt says when he came to OCU in 2012, their 2,600 or so student body was 60% female.
9 years later, it's 70% female and 30% male. So I have seen that gap grow even more. You know, what that tells me is that we have more females that are entering into professions that at one time were thought to be more predominantly males.
It wasn't hard to get college students from across the state to weigh in. Keyshawn Solomon is a plant and soil science major from Houston, Texas.
If you think about it, back then more men had rights than women. But now if you think about it, most of the guys in our generation go to work. Like I have buddies in the Army, I have buddies who weld. And more women come to college to get a degree where most men just go straight out to work just because they don't see the point in continuing further education.
I think it's becoming more common for guys to go into the blue-collar industry straight out of high school because they can take classes like that in high school to get them started on their careers earlier.
OU chemical engineering major Chris Zavaleta grew up the only male in his household after his mother migrated here from the country of Peru 26 years ago. One of his sisters is a nurse. His other sister will soon have her degree in chemical engineering.
I think that tells me that we're going towards the right way in society. I mean, with the women's right movement and everything that's happened the past 50 years, we've put more of an emphasis on, you know, getting women in STEM and just like furthering their education. So I think that's one of the reasons why, you know, the numbers have spiked in women in education.
Katie Galbraith is an OU neuroscience major from Bishop Kelly in Tulsa.
No, I know a lot more smarter women than I know smarter men, but I wouldn't say, I don't know if that's the whole world. I've only seen my little bubble.
Norman native Isabel York says girls are just more focused than boys.
I feel like it will help us get better jobs and probably increase our, what is the word? Yes, our pay rate.
So it's kind of like game on.
Yeah.
You don't feel sorry for them?
No, I don't.
Steve Shaw, the Oklahoma News Report.